The people are very warm. The food.
La gente que es muy acogedora.
And the architecture. And the racetrack is very close to here. Oh, about 5 times. Yeah, many times. My daughter studied here at university for a little bit in a summer program, and my family is with me, so they're out exploring the city. Yeah, I've always had an incredible time here. Almost 11 now, so it's incredible. I'm very grateful. It means a lot to me. I'm very honored to have been with the brand for such a long time. And it came about in a way that was very special because it was a sponsorship for my race team. So that meant a lot to me. And to be able to announce that on the grid at Le Mans was very, very exciting. And to continue after so many years and to see the growth and the changes and the evolution of the style of the watches and also the technology, the innovation is still there now that they're focusing on a lot of their own movements that are in-house. It's very exciting and very humbling and great. I'm very grateful because I've had so many great adventures. Luxury is easy, right? When something is luxurious, it's easy, it's effortless, it's comfortable, it's wonderful. You know, I think with the new watch that we have in the campaign, it's so light. It's so beautiful and very light. For a 44 millimeter watch, I find the bigger watches are very hard to wear sometimes. But this one in particular, it's luxurious because it's light.
And you give it to me.
Yes. But, and also I think the color combination is sublime. It's really elegant. It's an everyday watch and it's an extreme sport watch. So you can see it's really quite special. Luxury is good quality, handmade, craftsmanship. That is luxury to me. Yeah, yes. And I think this is very important now more than ever. Don't you love the weight of it? It's really gorgeous. And I love the brand, you know, because I had the good fortune to spend time with TAG Heuer. And that they keep him involved is very important. And he's in his 80s now. And he's done so much as a young man. And then when you would see Frédéric come in, it follows that tradition, right? The next generation moves the brand forward. And I think that's the beautiful thing about Europe is that the families continue on with the company and there's a value of craftsmanship. And I think to get back to luxury is we're losing that, right? With all of the innovation and the technology, you can tell if something is put together by hand. The emotion, the love, the respect, that to me, if it's a pair of shoes or if it's a suit made to measure, bespoke, that I love that.
It's like the cars.
It's like the cars too, like back in the day and still now. And then when something is handmade, you feel that energy, all that emotion. It's like good food, right? Good food is prepared because of the love behind it and and how proud someone is in the work that they do. It depends on the event.
Good answer.
Yeah, I think it depends on the event.
Very smart.
I bring everything with me. I have 4 watches with me. I have my the really light, you know, the new titanium Monaco watch, which is very light.
Very nice.
It's beautiful. It's I think a 39 millimeter. It's a small 42. I think it's 42. This is a 44. Yeah. It's very lightweight, which is really comfortable to wear. And the Carrère with the glass box is really lovely, really elegant for the night. And then the carbon fiber Monza watch is really nice as well. When I'm racing and training, I like those. And certainly the vintage collections too. I'm starting to develop the vintage stuff as well with Nicholas. Nicholas is fantastic. So we're always searching for things together, and then I buy those to build my antique collection. Well, it's certainly very focused on TAG Heuer, you know. So, but that's why I think it's important to have the contemporary watches mixed in and working with Nicholas on the heritage, depending on the event. You know, I was doing an event the other day. It was at the Luft event, which is air cooled in German, and one of the journalists came in with the Silverstone in burgundy. Oh, it was beautiful. And immediately I started talking to him because it said so much that he understood the watch and he had the watch. So it's like having a nice car or an antique car. It allows you to connect with someone immediately. And usually people are very open and welcoming, and it takes the barriers down. And I think that's the great thing about it. You take your watch off, you show it, you hold it, and go, ooh, ah, it's gorgeous. And then what's the story behind it? How did you find it? What's the history? All that stuff. It is a form of, and each one says something. It's like, it depends on what car you drive. If you're driving a specific type of car, it says a lot about you, good or bad, depending on how you're associating it. And the same for watches too, and what your collection is. It's really quite something. I met Inmar Stenmark, who is my hero, at Le Mans last year. He was coming down the stairs and I was going up, and I burst into tears. I was so happy to see him. And he had known about me because I had talked about him, and he gave me a big hug, and it was a beautiful moment. So your heroes sometimes live up to your expectations. Each one has a different memory. Like this watch I wore over the weekend, which is the new one that we have, and it's in the rose gold with the titanium, very lightweight, 44 millimeter. I think it's the movement is the new 20.00, and so I raced with that at the 6-hour race, and we got on the podium. We finished second in the championship. My Monaco watch from Le Mans reminds me of being on the podium there. The Carrera watch, when I did the Carrera Panamericana, which was what the watch was named after. So each one has a memory or an experience. My first vintage Monza watch, Monaco watch, was when I went to Spa for the first time. I bought it from a dealer in Brussels, and I wore that during my first Spa race. So everyone has a different experience and a different memory for me. It depends on what I'm doing, what activity I'm doing. This is sort of part of the campaign, and I really love the color, and the gold and the black, so it fit because I had a photo shoot earlier.
It's pink gold?
It's a rose gold, yes. So it's part of this. It's the Extreme Sport. And then I have a number of watches that I travel with, depending on what I'm going to wear. And total collection now? I counted the other day because someone always asked me and I never knew, and I have 45 watches now. I'm very fortunate because I get a lot allocated, but the best part is I can give watches away, and that to me is the best part. So people who wouldn't necessarily have the ability that I come in contact with, I can give them a watch, and it's the best feeling in the world. So to me, that's very good. And this is something that I'll hand down to my children, and each one is usually part of a new campaign or something that I've bought, especially the vintage watches through Nicholas and things like that. So I've developed my collection that way. And it's the one thing that I collect outside of cars that I can. It's a piece of jewelry for a man. For me, it's an accessory. It's a talking point. It's a way to engage with another person. So that's where I'm very fortunate to be an ambassador with TAG Heuer for 11 years, which is remarkable. It's a tremendous honor to me, and I want to make sure I represent the brand correctly. Well, Penelope Cruz is, it's a fantastic actress, and she was amazing in it. Fantastic, right? So it was. I thought it was an interesting movie because it showed what happened behind the scenes, the dynamic, and the racing was secondary, which I think was good because it's the humanity that's the most compelling, right? And what was driving him. So that's what I liked about the movie. And Portago, as well. It was very good to show that, especially to be here in Spain. And that the racing was really the emotional through line to what was driving him. I think one of the best movies, to answer the other part of the question, was Grand Prix. I think Grand Prix was a great movie. Le Mans was a flawed movie, but I think really tells the story of Le Mans and the atmosphere in a beautiful way. And Drive to Survive, I think, has really shown the world outside of the hardcore fans the drama and the dynamic and the humanity behind racing, which is why you're seeing such growth worldwide. Depends on the decade, right? You know, you have to go back to the very beginning. Fangio. I think the Fangio story is the most interesting.
Why?
Just because he won so many championships in so many different cars. To me, he's the greatest driver of all time. I'm not sure we've seen that yet in modern drivers. I mean, we've got some incredible drivers, but it's a different time. It's the romance of that. Portago's another great story. You know, incredible wildlife that he had. You know, that would be quite something. I've always preferred that era of motorsport from the 1950s, which is why I loved the Ferrari movie, because of the Mille Miglia and all those endurance races. So I think a lot of people of this generation don't know who they are, and they should. And to be driving those cars at that time, when we were shooting the movie, I did all the driving, and it's very scary. I have much more respect for their ability now than what the technology that we have is really protecting the drivers. You've seen the evolution, and the speeds are incredible, but that period was quite something. Both. Because it's very similar. No, I'll tell you. Okay, so I'll get more specific. I think it's always before you get ready to get in the car, you're very nervous because you have so many scenarios in your head. When you're working, you're not sure you can do it. So there's always that fear, which is good because it makes you care and it knows. It's always that first day of shooting and getting used to, can I do this? Do I understand what's going on? What's the crew like? How's the director? What's the cast? That never goes away. You learn how to manage it a lot more. I found a great book called A Champion's Mind for sports psychology, which has been very helpful. And then we talked about this earlier, the Calm app for meditation, to remember to breathe, right? If you remember to breathe, then you start to calm down. But you know, the fear never goes away. You just try to manage it in a way, you know. And then if you get too scared, then you start to get tight, and then that's when mistakes happen, or you're not open and you're not present. And I think those are the things that we need to work on. And it's not really taught enough, unfortunately, in schools and with our kids, you know. And it's hard to get my kids to listen to me, but they'll listen to other people. But I tell them, I'm like, remember to breathe, you know, that's the important thing. And one more thing, the most important thing for all of it, either the racing or the acting, is preparation. If you are prepared, then you feel confident. And if you're training properly, if you're working out, you're doing all that, then you're preparing yourself and you're prepped. If you're doing your homework, you know what's going on, then you have confidence. And then you also have the confidence to adapt to whatever happens in that moment. I started when I was a small boy. I always loved cars. My father loved racing. I wanted to be a ski racer as a child, so I was the state of Maine champion in slalom skiing. And Inmar Stenmark was my hero, which is interesting. Michaela Schifrin is racing this weekend in New England, and she could win 100 World Cup races, beating Inmar Stenmark as the greatest racer of all time. So that's really quite something. But as he was my hero. So the mental aspect, mental strength, I think has been the most important thing. Teamwork. Making sure you find the right chemistry with that. Practice, preparation. You're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. And I love it when my kids come in and they ask me, can you help me find a watch for tonight's event? And they will be 18. And I make sure that they have the right watch for the right event. So I appreciate the fact that it's interesting because kids now, they all tell time on their phone. They don't know how to tell time. So it's nice that they have a connection to the brand and to watches as well. No, it was more spending too much time away from my family. Because the commitment at that level, you have to sacrifice. You have to be in the car every day. Even with the AM drivers, they're traveling around the world. And with the WEC, it's the top form of endurance racing, the World Endurance Championship. And my kids were, 2015 was my last full year. Now I got back into it this year because my kids are older, they're gone, they're off doing their thing. So it became, to be good at anything, you're going to have to sacrifice something. And it took too much toll on my family because I was just focused 100% on achieving my goals, which was to get on the podium at Le Mans, to be able to race at the top level. And I remember when we won in Japan, I could feel an internal shift where the hunger was gone, and I was like, now it's time for me to go back home and to be present. And I've enjoyed sitting on the sidelines watching my son play soccer, or my daughter doing her things, and my other son doing the theater. I could be home and be present because I had no regrets. I'd done what I wanted to do. I had proven to them, hopefully in time, if they want something bad enough, they work hard enough, and they sacrifice, they can achieve their goals. And then I was happy to be with my wife at home, you know, being there. But now I want to go racing again because they're getting older. So I want to find a balance where I can continue the racing, but not at the same level. Plus, I'm getting too old. I would like to go through my 20s again very fast. I didn't like my 20s. I'm not, but I think I'm really enjoying my 50s. I think now the small things don't worry me as much. I realize I don't have as much time. Therefore, what I do spend my time on has much more meaning. So if I could slow my 50s down, that would be great. I think just, you know, you're always looking outside yourself for validation, or you don't really believe in yourself enough. And it was a very, you know, you're building your career, you're struggling. You're not thinking correctly. Yeah, I think it's a very hard time, and even more so now for young kids today. You know, I think it's a very troubling time. You're an adult, but you don't really have the maturity. You're starting your career. You haven't really had the mastery. So if I were to look back, I would tell myself in my 20s to be an apprentice, to learn, to be with the best people and learn from them. And then you start to become a master later in life, where I think that's the important thing we have to remember to tell our children, is to find a good mentor and to be an apprentice. Now, because of technology, everybody wants to be the boss right away, but they don't have the skill set or the understanding. You have to learn the craft. You have to learn. And you look around this beautiful hotel and you look at the craftsmanship. That took time. It was an apprenticeship. Now we're losing those values. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring the children over here, is that Europe still has these values. You know, America, no one wants to be a beginner. Everybody wants to be the boss, and it takes time because it's a tremendous responsibility. You have to remain some sort of sense of humility to lead, and you have to make mistakes in order to understand what not to do. So that's I think why the 20s were so hard. I wish I had had that understanding, and I had surrounded myself with people with greater mastery. I mean, the time is so fast now, right? There's too much information all the time. And we're seeing so much upheaval in the world right now that, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. Environmentally, we don't know what's going to happen. Politically, around the world, there's this rise of authoritarian nature. There's just so much misinformation that kids don't have an opportunity to be kids anymore. And it's scary. Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing that up. That's probably the most important thing that I do, and certainly to be of service is what life is really about. What we do is we don't treat the disease, we treat the person holistically with wraparound care through counseling, acupuncture, Reiki, nutrition, yoga, and we simply ask them, what can we do to help manage your life. We also take care of the caregivers, the children. We have a children's program as well, and whatever they may possibly need. And these services are at no cost to the family or to the patients. We have come a long way with the treatment of the disease, but we have a long way to go with healing the person after the treatment. Also, we work with survivorship because more and more people are getting diagnosed earlier and living if properly treated. What's really 1 in 3 women will have a cancer diagnosis in their lifetime, and 1 in 2 men will have one. So that there are a lot of contributing factors to that: environment, food, lifestyle, obesity, all of these things. Certainly in America, because of the industrial food complex, the amount of preservatives that are put into the foods are causing the obesity, which is then causing a number of problems. So we try to focus on all of that, and we have a much better relationship now with with the local hospitals and doctors, and we want to be able to bring more awareness not only in the state of Maine, but also nationally and internationally. We're reaching 32 states now through our counseling. We've seen a big uptick because not everyone has been getting the screenings that they should be getting. Men should be getting their colonoscopies in their 40s now, not in their 50s. You should have a good understanding of your family history so that you can tell your doctor and make sure you get your screenings. I just finished Dexter, Original Sin, which comes out December 13th or 14th. I finished last week. So I finished on Tuesday, and then I went to Texas. I had a race, an endurance race over the weekend, flew home, and came here. And I'm on the road for the next 3 weeks. I go from here to Portugal, and then I go to Brazil, and then New York, and then will be Christmas. So I have a couple other projects that I'm waiting for scripts, and probably start something in the first quarter or spring of next year. But it's nice to have something coming out this year in a completely different character.